This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.
Welcome back. The suspect of the sexual assault that happened on Marshall Road on Sunday, January 8th, was arraigned in court on Tuesday, while also being charged with armed robbery, burglary, possession of an unlicensed firearm, as well as being in possession of Indian hemp. 26-year-old Dennis Ingram of Donahue Terrace stood in front of Senior Magistrate Judge Darrence Roll in court number 5 as he was charged with rape, armed robbery, possession of dangerous drugs with intent to supply, possession of an unlicensed firearm, and again, burglary. According to reports, a family situated in Marshall Road had their home broken into by Ingram and 2 other males. All suspects were armed with firearms. They subsequently tied up the occupants of the home, robbing them of an undisclosed amount of cash. It is reported that during the incident, a female was sexually assaulted. Ingram will remain in the Bahamas Department of Corrections until he returns to court on March 13th. Today, members of Parliament and members of the official opposition gathered at Bethel Baptist Church on Meeting Street as they heard Bishop Delton Fernandez deliver a particular message to those that govern the nation.
I don't know about you, but I am grateful to live in a country founded on Christian principles. Yes, sir. All the branches of government, even the High Court, begin each year seeking God's guidance in the house of the Lord. While we take it for granted, this is simple yet profound occurrence that should not become just perfunctory and a matter of tradition. I believe it's because of these small things that the Bahamas is a blessed nation. I believe a part of that reason for this is the fact that as a matter of state, we find ourselves in, I believe, in a sacred space, bowing down to the power of a God that is greater and even the highest office in our land.
Bishop Fernandez goes on to tell the members of Parliament that those in power are going to have conflicts. However, he hopes the disputes are in the best interest of the nation and for future generations. He believes 2023 will be a year of great significance.
You already know that this year observes the 56 years of majority rule. And also we make preparations tomorrow night as we journey towards a celebration of 50 years of independence. This is no small time to be in leadership in the Bahamas. While you might be happy to have a title, you are now in charge of the Jubilee of the Bahamas. However, this should also be a time of reflection, especially for the leaders of our country. We should all know that we have profoundly benefited from the efforts and sacrifice that are on display in this historic Mother Battle today.
The bishop also addressed the everyday Bahamian, encouraging them not to be an entitled generation waiting on politicians to do everything for you. He said everyone has a duty to contribute to the development of the country and its culture to make the Bahamas the best country in the world. Before adjourning to attend the annual church service to begin the new year of parliamentary proceedings, communications were made by several members of the House of Assembly. Obi Wilshcombe, the Minister of Social Services and Urban Development, spoke on the 56 Majority Rule celebrations held last Tuesday, January 10th. He relived some of the events, like the general strike that led to the historic day of Majority Rule, which he describes as the crowning jewel of the quiet revolution towards self-determination. Minister Wilshcombe lauded the men and women who sacrificed and fought to make it happen, but reminds us that the fight continues.
The road to 50 is filled with moments and events that are reflective of the blood, the sweat, and the tears of the leaders who, in the words of Celine Pinling, determined to lifting up the common man, struggling for full human rights and complete deliverance from the repression of colonial status. Madam Speaker, the pantheon of men and women of the quiet revolution will always be the true heroes and heroines on the march on the road to 50. The revolution continues.
Also speaking on the events of majority rule, leader of the official opposition, Michael Pintard, says the history of events that led to majority rule should include the efforts of all Bahamians who played a role in the struggle. Mr. Pintard suggests the history be reframed in a now modern Bahamas.
Madam Speaker, there are numerous events leading up to the establishment of majority rule that contributed mightily to the eventual milestone being reached and subsequently etched in law. The backdrop against which these events unfolded must, however, be reframed in a modern Bahamas. In short, Madam Speaker, the decades of struggle was engaged in by both black and white Bahamians and others from other jurisdictions. I'm advised, Madam Speaker, that white and black folks facilitated the formation of the PLP, contrary to some revisionists who placed these historical facts, in a context that allowed them to suck every bit of credit they can get out of it today.
Mr. Pintard went on to say that the majority rule was also an inspirational event with the expectation that the achievements would deepen democracy and increase citizens' participantship in governance while empowering Bahamian people regardless of their socioeconomic status. Members of Parliament, they returned to the House of Assembly on February 1st. Last week, while at Sir Lyndon Pinling's mausoleum for an event to celebrate majority rule, Dame Marguerite Pinling shocked many in attendance and those who watched the video via social media when she scolded the Progressive Liberal Party and demanded an apology from Chairman Fred Mitchell as she accused the PLP of using the event as a stepping stone for publicity. Additionally, the former Governor General pointed out that she was not mentioned during the protocols, suggesting that she was not formally invited to the event in honor of her late husband. Needless to say, Lady Pinling did not get an outright apology, but Chairman Mitchell did say there was no disrespect intended and they were supporting Lady Pinling. He also reminded those in attendance that a new generation of Bahamians are at the forefront and may do things a little differently. Well, 6 days later, on Monday, Chairman Mitchell sought to drive that message home with the following indirect comments.
It's important in our public life when we become mature not to allow public decisions to be driven by prejudice and a sense of entitlement. We own nothing, and it is certain we will carry nothing out. There is a time to pass on the baton. Those of us of mature years, I enter my 70th year this year, are here to guide and protect and pass on, not try to hold on forever and think that it's all about us. When we think it's all about us, we come off as being self-absorbed and ungrateful. So I look at the young people who organized that ceremony on Majority Rule Day at the church, St. Agnes, and in the cemetery, and I say to them, job well done. The Bahamas belongs to all of us, not to one single person.
Currently, Mr. Mitchell is in his capacity as Minister of Foreign Affairs and Public Service in Washington, D.C., supporting Prime Minister Philip Davis as he meets with U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. From there, he explains why he then travels to Guyana.
To go to Georgetown, Guyana, to head the Community Council meeting. That is the second highest body in CARICOM. It is all the foreign ministers, and our job is to set the agenda for the heads of government meeting on the 16th to 18th of February in Nassau. Prime Minister Davis took over the chairmanship of CARICOM on the 1st of January 2023. It will be his job to pilot the organization for the next 6 months. In that connection, Nassau will be awash with important international visitors, including the leaders from Canada and the United States, in addition to all the prime ministers of the CARICOM nation.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Davis is expected to return to Nassau from his meeting with the U.S. Vice President on Wednesday, January 18th. And finally, a series of prayers services are being held this week for the Reverend Dr. C.B. Morse, who has been in a medically induced coma at Doctors Hospital since he collapsed at the Majority Rule Ecumenical Service at St. Agnes Church on Tuesday, January 10th. The special services, which began on Tuesday night, are being held at Reverend Dr. Morse's Church, Mount Olive Baptist on Meadow Street in Baines and Grantstown. Reverend Dr. Morse is a giant of a man in the over-the-hill community, where he serves as president of the Baines and Grantstown Advancement Association and the Coalition to Save Clifton. The services have been arranged by fellow clergymen in the Baines and Grantstown community, including Reverend Dr. Philip McPhee, Reverend Robert Colebrook, and Reverend Glenn Miller. The services for tonight and Thursday night begin at 7 p.m. and the general public is invited to attend the prayer services as the country continues to pray for Reverend Dr. Moss's recovery. And that'll do it for your JCN Evening News. Once again, I'm Jcn Saunders. Thanks for joining us.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.